Hey guys, today we're going to go ahead and talk about solving multi-step linear inequalities, but with absolute value signs. Now the first thing that you guys want to do is understand what we're doing here. Now I wrote here Pemdas, which is the order of operations that we need to use every time we're solving these. Now when you guys are doing equations, you're solving equations, you're actually doing the reverse. Remember order of operations, you go parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division from left to right, addition, subtraction from left to right. Well, now when you solve, you're going backwards. Anytime you solve equations, inequalities, you're going backwards. So first we're going to go undo addition, subtraction, then undo multiplication, division. Finally, undo exponents if we have that, or square roots or cube roots, and then finish off whatever's inside parentheses, or in this case absolute value. Okay, so here we look at this problem. Here we see a 6 minus 2, and right away students say, oh, this is easy, this is 4. No, you have to understand that the 6 is being subtracted by this whole quantity here. Okay, so this guy here is a positive 6. What we have to do in order to start solving, okay, that's plus 6, so we're going to do the opposite or the inverse, which is a minus 6. This guy simplifies to a 0. We're left with negative 2 times the absolute value of 3x minus 2. Less than, this becomes negative 14. Now here, now we go ahead and do the next undo multiplication or division. Well, you notice the negative 2 is right next to the absolute value, so that means multiplication. So what do? I'm going to divide. By what? Well, negative 2. Negative 2. This simplifies here, becomes a 1. Okay, that leaves me with 3x minus 2 in absolute value. Negative 14 divided by negative 2 is positive 7. Now remember, anytime you divide by a negative, you have to reverse the inequality. Okay, now this is a much easier absolute value to work with. And one thing I want you guys to always remember, which is key, absolute value has two solutions. Okay, absolute value has two answers, two solutions. Okay, why is that? Well, remember, absolute value is the distance on the number line from 0. So if I ask you what's the absolute value of 3, well, easy, that's 3. It's 3 units away. Well, what about the absolute value of negative 3? Well, still the same thing, it's still 3. Okay, so we have two solutions. And this is very important when we're solving these absolute value inequalities. So we're going to go ahead and split it up. We're going to start with the positive 3x minus 2 greater than 7. And we're going to have a second equation or inequality, which is the negative. You notice there's a negative in the inside, so I'm going to put negative parentheses 3x minus 2, the quantity, greater than 7. So we account for both the positive and the negative aspect of it. Okay. Next, we're just gonna go ahead and solve it, just like normal. Plus 2 on both sides. That simplifies. We're gonna have 3x is greater than 9, and when you divide by 3, x is greater than 3. On this side, we're doing much the same, except now we have to distribute this negative. And this is good practice when we're working with our negative and our integers. Negative times negative is a positive, greater than 7. And then over here, same thing, minus 2 on both sides, minus 2 on both sides. Okay, that simplifies, you're left with negative 3x is greater than 5. When we divide by negative 3, remember to always use that, whatever's in front of that symbol, in front of that, that constant. Okay, this simplifies into a 1. I'm dividing by that negative in the denominator, so I reverse it, becomes negative 5 over 3. Okay, now very important, guys, it's only when we divide by a negative. Okay, that means the bottom, the denominator, is a negative. Just because you see a positive over here or a negative up here doesn't mean you reverse an equality. So a lot of times I'll see my students do this example. Okay, I'll see 2x is greater than or equal to, let's say, negative 4. And then they divide by 2, they divide by 2. And they think just because you see a negative here that they reverse it. No, it still stays. Okay, you still keep the sign the same. All right, this would be the correct answer. So be careful. The other thing I want you to always remember also is that notice that nothing gets changed. Okay, the only thing that gets changed is the inside here. I don't change anything. I just input the negative. Okay, that's all I do. Everything else stays the same. Everything else stays the same. All I account for is the positive value and the negative value. Okay, the last thing we have to do, which is good practice, is to graph it. So let's go ahead and graph it on the number line. Okay, very important as you get up to the higher levels of math. The negative or the smaller value is always on the left, and the larger is always on the right. Okay, now if you remember from graphing, okay, these are going to be open circle. Why open circle? Because it doesn't have the little equal sign underneath. So that means these values, we're not going to include the number 3. It's only numbers that are greater than 3. So what numbers are greater than 3? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all those to the right. Now what about numbers that are less than negative 5/3? Well, what number, how many times does 3 go into 5? Well, 1 and change. So anything less than negative 1. So negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. All these to the left. Okay. And notice it's open circle. We're not including the negative 5/3. Alright, because it would not make the inequality true. And anytime they're pointing in opposite directions, we use the word or. So that would be your solution. Okay, x is greater than 3, or x is less than negative 5/3. And this is your solution set. And that's how we do that. Okay, let's go ahead and do one just for practice. One more. Another one much the same. Remember, we're going to undo addition subtraction first, and we're going to add 4 on both sides. So that takes care of that guy right there. The inequality is less than or equal to now. 6 plus 4 is 10. Over here on the left we have 1/2 times the absolute value of 4x plus 8. Okay. Now from here, well, what do I do now? Well, this means multiplication. I got to get rid of it. Now there's two ways you can think about it. You can either divide by 1/2 or multiply by the reciprocal. I'm just going to go ahead and divide by 1/2. Either way, a lot of students, they see this. Okay. 1/2 divided by 1/2, same thing. Now over here, this is where students get confused, but I like it because it prepares you for higher mathematics, which are complex fractions. So this is basically a fraction within a fraction. Well, anytime you divide by a fraction, it's like multiplying by the reciprocal. So this, guys, I can rewrite it as 10 divided by 1/2. Well, if I use my multiplication, change in multiplication and do the reciprocal, this becomes 20. So you notice all we had to do, instead of doing this long process here, all we do is 10 times the reciprocal of this, which is 2/1. And that's going to give us 20. So now that I have that, I have the absolute value of 4x plus 8 is less than or equal to 20. And then we can just go ahead and solve it from there. Remember, absolute value has two solutions. Now you notice I've kept the absolute value up until this point. Now I'm just going to remove it. I'm going to have my two equations. Inequalities. I have the positive. Now I have to account for the negative. Times 4x plus 8 is less than or equal to 20. And from here, I'm just going to go ahead and do my mathematics. Minus 8 on both sides. And 20 minus 8 is going to give me 12. So 4x is less than or equal to 12. When you divide by 4, x is less than or equal to 3. Alright, now we go over on this side, much the same, but I have to distribute that negative. So that becomes negative 4x minus 8 is less than or equal to 20. Notice that I don't distribute the negative all the way to the 20. It just ends right here in the parentheses. Sounds pretty simple, but believe me, students make that mistake. We're going to go ahead, that simplifies. 20 plus 8 is 28. Bring down the negative 4x. Now what do? Well, divide by negative 4. Remember to use that symbol that's in front of the coefficient. Negative divided by negative is a positive. Remember, we're dividing now. We're dividing by that negative, so we have to reverse Okay, it's not called flip, reverse that inequality. And there it is. Okay, good. Now let's go ahead and do our number line, solve it, or I should say graph it. Remember, the smaller value always goes on the left. We read books from left to right. And these, you notice they have the little equal sign underneath. So we're going to bubble them in. That means we're including, okay, we are including this as a solution, okay, these numbers as solutions. So what number is less than 3? Well, that's 2, 1. All of these over here to the left that go this way. All of these over here. Okay, and they keep going. And what numbers are greater than -7? Well, that would be -6, -5, -4, negative, all the way to the positives. And you notice something very interesting. This part here overlaps in here. And what happens is, when that happens, when we overlap, we have combined solutions. Okay, so you can write it one of two ways. You can say x is greater than -7 and x is less than 3. Okay, you can do that. Or another way that you're going to see in higher mathematics, excuse me, let me give you guys some room, is this notation with the x, the variable in the middle, and less than or equal to, less than or equal to. Okay, and this means solutions that are between -7 and +3. And this is important because you're going to see this as you get up into the higher college mathematics. A lot of teachers, professors use this notation. So it's important to understand what this means. It means in between. So these are numbers between -7 and 3. All right, guys. So hopefully that helps. Let me know. Subscribe. If you have any other questions, any other problems, feel free to email or send a message, and I'll go ahead and do them. Thank you, guys. Good luck.